Good evening, fellow ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. I know we've begun a bit late, and my apologies for that. We were having a technical hitch, but today we have with us Felix Ochuoga. Welcome to Let's Create Africa webinar. My name is Ohiga Kemuturi, and thank you for joining us this evening. We're looking forward to having an interesting conversation with Mr. Felix Ochuoga. For those who don't know, Let's Create Africa webinar is about business innovation, the SDGs, and governance. So we are thankful to have all of you join us, courtesy also and with the help of our fellow partners, that is Starting KYR Africa, SOCO, and the Future of Work. Mr. Felix Ochuoga, can you hear me? Hello, Felix. Great. Felix, can you hear us? You've disappeared for a moment. We're waiting for you. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. So please, let's hear from you. Hello, Felix. Okay, as you work on the few issues, Felix, as we are waiting for you, we can actually get into reading your bio.
I think just a moment.
Great, Felix, as you get into it. So for those who don't know, Felix Ochuoga is an inspirational entrepreneur and the founder of Adonis Capital, an innovative investment tech startup based in Nairobi, Africa. He is also a CEO at Tusenti, a digital wallet that enables transactional payments. Felix has a strong passion for helping others achieve financial success and has dedicated his life to creating opportunities for those in need. And as we proceed on that, as we await for Mr. Felix, I would like to hear your comments for those who have joined us. Thank you, Karanja. Thank you, Karimi Omboko. Thank you so much. And very nice name. Thank you, Kamau. Great. Thank you, Timothy. We are happy to have you on board. Brilliant. I would like to hear some comments from you guys. I would really appreciate. Great, great, great. Thank you. So Irene says, I'm looking forward to hearing from Felix, but this looks like it will end up being a very interesting conversation. Thank you very much, Irene. But as we're waiting for Mr. Felix, I think he's having a connection issue, but we do proceed. So when it comes to Felix, again, as I said, Felix has a strong passion for helping others achieve financial success, and he's dedicated his life to creating opportunities for those in need. He's currently leading a team of 6, working on 4 startups, and has become a well-known advocate for financial independence. Mr. Felix, can you hear us finally?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank God. Wow, Wi-Fi. I'm very sorry.
It is okay, sir. We are here for you. So this is our business. Africa is our business, as we say. Thank you for also turning on your video. So Felix, if you please don't mind, I know I've read your bio and all, but do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm an African. This is the easiest way of putting it. I'm an African who believes in the success of Africa and to be able to see Africa get to grow to the next level. And I believe so much in building Africa for Africans. And I think Africa deserves so much more than it already has. And I will urge all Africans that we build our continent in a dynamic way, in a way that it represents us, in a way that we are able to build from it. We are able to take part in the world. There's a day I was reading something on Norwegian Business Association, and they were talking about Africa. And then I asked, guys, you're talking about Africans, and there's no Africa in it. So what are you talking about? In every capacity, my goal or my life vocation is to make sure Africans are making it to the top level.
Brilliant. And if I may ask, what's your background? Considering your passion and considering the type of business you are in. What do you mind sharing your background with us?
My background is so I come from a um well, it's very different to talk about background because I'm trying to imagine what do I get to filter, what do I get to share.
No, no, no.
But
It's your choice. At least my audience at Let's Create Africa are very open, myself included. So feel free to tell us your social background, personal background before we even get into the professional.
okay, so personal background. Well, I'm an orphan. I grew up from without having a parent, but then at the same time I got adopted, and I'm among very few Africans who are lucky to have had that. I'm really try. I mean, I enjoy the aspect of what you can achieve from coming out of coming out of nowhere and trying to make your name in this society. So yeah, that's my social. I rarely talk about social. People rarely ask me that, but I think I could talk about professional. I'm a storyteller. Apart from that, um, I've had the benefit of studying real estate from the University of Nairobi. I did accounting, and then I did what is it? I also did financial modeling and valuation from Corporate Finance Institute based in Canada. So I have a bit of financial background within me. Yeah, I think that's the best way of trying to put it out there.
Brilliant. Why run four companies? You could do one and be okay. You could also get employed and be okay. But why such a trajectory in how you've handled your career?
um, One, while I was in campus, I was pursuing relationship. One thing is not enough for me. I need to do more, give me a bigger challenge. But at the same time, actually, the idea is not even to run for, the idea is to run a conglomerate of African startups. I tried getting employed, and my boss was like, "You're going to take my job in 2 years." So, it's going to be very hard having you around. But at the same time, I think I enjoy um, independence in a different capacity. If I'm not doing what I'm doing, then Africa might not be able to step to the ground where it needs to step. So working with brilliant minds, having people set up and get to do more, that's a passion. I started business from a very, very young age. So it's just it's every day is a day to do more, to just be yourself. I think of what I'm doing in terms of startups as work and play, where I just get to enjoy seeing things thrive, put things into place, and so on.
Interesting. You've talked about your boss's response to you being employed by him or her. Why do you think they say that? Is it because you're a jack of many trades but a master of none, or is it because they were threatened by the place you are, or is it because you just generally get bored about opportunities that you get? Just curious around that.
Well, I will say I'm a jack of many trades and a master of many trades. Yeah, but when what I remember is we are having a conversation of how to grow this business where I was at, and they were like, "You have so much insight, and a job that will take a 5 or 4 employees to do in a week, I do it in a few hours." And I think and when you're dealing with older people, you're making them insecure. I think I never took one the first 48 first laws in the 48 laws of power, which is never train your master. So problem is my master was a bit insecure, and I was like, anyway, I enjoy this.
Okay, please tell us about Adonis Capital, which is one of the organizations that you're the CEO and co-founder, I believe. So kindly tell us more about that.
Adonis Capital is a beautiful, I call it, that's a beautiful creation. We started off in campus, and our idea was trying to be able to give Africans the opportunity to start investing with as little as below $1. And we saw the need growing. And we also wanted to have finance not just in areas of areas of work. We wanted to have finance that people can have leisure in finance. You could travel through your investments and such. But then, what it's like when you're developing a software. You start with you believe this is the brilliant idea that is going to work, and then all of a sudden, you need to do more. So getting into the investment space opened my eyes to so much more. I asked myself, how comes there's so many startups that are getting funded outside and not funded locally? And at the same time, why are they failing? So we wanted to solve a need. At the same time, we did volunteer projects in Kibra, and it opened our eyes to the kind of unserved population that we needed. Startups need to do more than just, it's good to get money from outside. It's really good, but you getting this money and you developing this money to, you get developing your people in different capacity. This is what Adonis Capital trying to do, that we can liberate Africans through a fund in business, in Adonis Capital, call it business fund, that now invest in startups, invest in businesses that have not been given an opportunity to. And we don't just invest in capital, we invest in human capital, resources, partnership, and so on. So Adonis Capital is now becoming a unicorn that is able to help startups thrive in different in different areas. So we look at organizations, how can we build organization in the best limelight and to see them thrive? Because we want to reduce these failures. When Kune Food failed, it hurt my heart. It hurt me big time, because I was like, this is something that was something that was good, but then where is it? And getting funding to millions and it's not working out, it's a sad story. So I feel like Africa needs someone to believe in it, and even Africans to believe in their own product, to see us thrive now, even to the next level, to the next scopes. Yeah.
Interesting. You've talked about being a unicorn. Do you mind if I ask what's the valuation of your company?
Um, can we put a valuation? Really, I think if we are trying to put the valuation, the best valuation is what impact are we putting into the market. I mean, finance people, we like to talk about values and the numbers that don't really make like bring life into what you're doing. But if you ask me about the different impacts that we have in the market, then I can say we have a value within the market. Then even in that capacity as a valuer, I don't think you can value an impact unless you see what people think about it, how people get to see it in terms of market cap, what market, what are we serving, how are we growing people, how are we changing startups in a different capacity. For me, that's the right, that would be the way we could value us.
Interesting.
Yes.
Just a comment from Leon. He says, "Hi Felix, it's nice to see you again, though virtually after a series of years. Now about Adonis, what level of startups do you finance at the moment?"
We start from idea stage. When I say I enjoy my work, is I enjoy listening to brilliant minds, and when you listen to Africans are very smart. So I will start from idea stage, and then I'll see what do you need, and at the same time taking you to different and in even bigger scope.
So by idea stage, if I may ask, does it mean even before your MVP, which is most viable product, or
yes.
Brilliant. So even with an idea, I can come to Adonis Capital and just get to know how can Adonis Capital partner with me on this.
Exactly. And actually, when it comes to financing, financing is money is one, but I find that most startups don't need money. Most startups need the right environment to thrive in. It's an interesting paradox that yes, outsourcing funding, but before you outsource funding, what's your market looking like? What is going to change? If you look at what Safaricom M-Pesa was back in 2007, what M-Pesa is today, it's completely two different organizations, because
Yes.
M-Pesa started as we're just sending money. I'm sending money to you. But right now we're looking at a whole different scope where we are able to grow to even you're able to make payments, you're able to pay for your medical bills, and the environment is huge. And this is something that startups need to see for them to thrive.
Wow, nice. Moving on, and going to the other part is Tusenti. You're also the COO and co-founder of Tusenti, right?
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
can hear you sighing. I hope it's a good sigh.
I love Tusenti.
Okay, so tell us more about Tusenti.
So Tusenti is a digital wallet that allows you to take charge of your transactions. It's simple as that. What Tusenti does is that Wahiga, I believe you have areas where you'd love to, you can't meet, but your transaction can help you meet. So what happens is Tusenti is you download the application right now in Google Store, and then after downloading the application, you onboard yourself as an individual, and then every time you send money to another person using Tusenti, you save on your transactional charges, and then your charges are able to help you make other transactional payments that you may need. So it's such a brilliant business, and at the same time, it's an ecosystem, an e-commerce that allows you to have your inventory existing for as a business. You're able to see what am I selling, how many customers are about to buy my product. So to Senti is beautiful. It comes from the word Senti. It's such a beautiful startup. I wish I know Kenyans are going to love the product that is to Senti.
Ah, interesting. I love the confidence. You definitely believe in what you're doing and how long you've been doing. When did Adonis Capital begin, if I may ask?
Adonis started in 2020. I was juggling between getting attending a law class, and writing the product, the idea down, and I was like, I need to miss that class to have this thing grow. So I ended up taking notes later, but hey, 4 years later, we are going on. But I think he also started even way back, because I remember there was a time I was very dissatisfied in within the financial area. I looked at the mortgage industry and all that, and when you see what your people need and what is being given to them, you're like, no, you guys deserve better. You guys deserve Adonis for you.
Okay, by your people, if I may ask, do you mean Kenyans, Africans, investors? Who exactly is the audience here?
Africans are good investors. Are even investors are African. You know,
Thank you for
if
that.
we start talking about the greatest investors of all time, can we talk about Mansa Musa? Can we talk about our Africans, what the kind of trades that used to happen in Egypt? We have the Ethiopian eunuch in the Bible, talking we basically on business. Who can beat us in doing business?
Ah, interesting. Which actually, thank you because of that, because it leads me to the next stage of. So, what are your thoughts around finance and investment in Africa? Because I know you're very passionate and keen about this, and I've heard you in several areas just talk about it blatantly. What are your thoughts around finance and investment in Africa?
Africans, I think we are really, either our education system is very wrong in terms of narrating the way finance is supposed to relate with us. That I think that's one place. At the same time, before we get to the point where we're at the level of Americans and the Europeans, I think it's a collective good that we have to sit down, go back to the drawing board. What can we do to make ourselves self-sustaining? I would say right now we are there. If you look at for example, just guys who get into the bonds market, that market is exclusively for older people, and they only get to do this at 40, 35 plus, and you ask yourself, how comes? What happened before that? And I feel like we forgot the simple sayings where we had haba na haba hujaza kibaba. And finance need to start from where my small and this small can grow businesses, can grow startups. This is the way we can do so much. We can empower our people to grow, because investment is basically sitting down and looking at this business. It needs funding. Can you do it differently? You tell me you're taking money to your bank. That money is going to sit down, yet you have Mamboga next door, and you can invest in that Mamboga and bring even bigger returns, because you're able to see the kind of businesses that the kind of inventor that she's going to have. You're able to expand this business at different capacity. And I also think that this is another thing that we added under Tusenti, is that right now we're even giving individuals an opportunity for coming up with a business of their choice, onboard customers, and then let customers pre-save for this particular product they would love to buy. So in your wallet, you're able to see how many people are going to buy this product that I want to buy, and then you can be able to cash out this money that they've been saving and get this product distributed to them. And I think this is such a huge space that we've been missing. Investment, I would say we're still lagging behind, and we have a long way to go in terms of in the investment space.
So you're very keen, and I know even when you started the program, you talked about you had investors talking about Africa, and there was no African on the table. Yeah,
Imagine.
case in point, there'll be an investment forum happening in Texas, I believe next month, and it's happening in another country and not Africa. I can tell you that it's actually happening in Texas, in the global north. So the conversation is, how exactly then can Africans get into the conversation and the space of finance and investment while still allowing other investors from anywhere else to come in?
Okay, let me use a very different analogy for you.
No.
When I was growing up, I remember when one time our neighbors made chapatis, and I loved chapatis, and I went next door to have a bite of it. And that day when I got back, I was scared thoroughly. I was beaten thoroughly. Case in point, my mom was very clear. You eat at home. This is how we do things are very different. The issues of your family, you don't present them outside. So my case and points to Africans: how are we allowing people outside us to tell us how to run our business? How are you allowing your child to go and eat chapatis in your neighbor's house, yet you can make that chapati at home? You know, how we allowing people to talk about us, how they feel that we can grow outside when we haven't figured out our issues yet. It's a paradox. At some point it can be very sarcastic if you ask me. Why are we doing this? Why are we allowing ourselves to be controlled and be told, okay, next month we're having this discussion in this country, and it's in Texas. The last time I checked, Africa has 54 states. I mean 55. I've not seen Texas as part of them. So we need to come back and ask ourselves, how do we make our own chapati? How do we make the dough so that our children are able to love the food that we cook? Is this the same way that we can be able to sit down and make investments work for us Africans?
Interesting. Actually, just a correction, there are actually 54 countries in Africa, independent countries. But that not being the point, how can we then partner with other partners who are actually in a place of investment? Because benchmarking partnership is not a wrong thing at the end of it all. But how do we do that while still maintaining our sovereignty as Africa, as Kenyans, as Ugandans, as Nigerians, as DRC? How do we do that? Because, as we say, it's the piper who plays the tune. Yeah.
I think right now we used to have, I don't know if you've heard about Njurin Cheke, where elders will sit down and be able to.
The Meru Njurin Cheke?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
The elders will sit down and be able to make decisions. I think within the finance and investment space, we need to have our own Njurin Cheke, where we are able to sit down, bring in funds, and sit and agree what needs to work for us. And that way we are able to grow even to the next level. Because yes, partnerships are good.
But if I may ask, will that be practical considering we might not be the ones removing the funds?
How many circles exist in Kenya?
Nearly 500.
Those are avenues.
An average of 500.
Exactly. So you can imagine bringing all that capital under circles, because if you go to the US, banks like Wells Fargo are very big, right? Banks like when you look at First Bank of America, they're very big, and the idea is that this bank started because they were banks for people, and the moment you include people in the finance and the investment space, you have tackled a bigger problem, because investing is very simple. Haba na haba hujaza kibaba. You bring yours, I bring mine, and then you put. Njoroge brings his, so is Kamau, so is Otieno, so is Ndegwa, and then when you put it all together and say Kipto, you have a good business. Let's invest in it. I want to be able to grow in Africa. It's the same thing that you need to do, because when you look at a business like Safaricom right now, does it operate in Kenya only?
No.
No, exactly. It operates in East and Central Africa. When you look at businesses such as Equity banks, they're now in the whole of East and Central of Africa, and it keeps growing. And it tells you that when the moment you keep on expanding, reaching to the marginalized community, reaching to the marginalized businesses in the startup space, then we are able to grow. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Finex by MDP in Villarosa, and I asked banks, why are we not? Why are you guys not investing in startups? And I posed the question about the merchant of Venice, where in the beginning banks were trying to get in, but no one was putting money in their banks, and the younger people started putting the money in banks, and the moment the old merchants in Venice decided not to put their cash in banks, what happened is they were no longer the rich people. They were no longer the big merchants in Venice, and that tells you the main problem is that we need to sit down, consolidate startups, and agree what do they need, what kind of financing do they need, what kind of capital do they need. In this way, we are able to grow people, we're able to grow businesses in different capacities. There's a saying in Kikuyu, if I translate it well in Swahili, where there is people, there is business. Your business can only thrive where there is people. And it's simple as that. When we sit down as Africans and agree that we need to finance our own businesses, we will grow at a massive space.
Interesting. Thank you, Felix, for that and bringing the realities. At the moment, do you feel the space is ready for intra and inter-African investment per se? Do you feel like Africa and Kenya by itself is ready?
I think I will say, first of all, Kenya, we are far ahead in terms of this space. I feel Africa is ready because honestly, the kind of interactions I get to have from guys in Senegal, South Africa, Ghana, we converse on a different space where we're looking at how are we able to grow our own, how are we able to make it work for us. And I think and I feel like we are able to also expand our mind and expand our businesses in bigger scale.
Whom do you mean exactly by us, if I may ask?
Africans, I mean, right as we speak, when you look at a business like Equity Bank, how many banks has it invested in? So many across Africa. They have variety. They just acquired Aspire Bank. I mean, is it no Spire Bank that was previously owned by teachers, and this equity is a story that Africa it could work. When you look at systems like Hewala system in West Africa, where they're able to transact money without borders, it tells you that Africa is ready to do business. It's only in Africa that you don't need permission to do business with another person. That's how we relate. That I can sit down and tell you, okay, you have this. I am selling this. Okay, do this. We are ready for this. I think what happens is that what we actually need to do is now tap into the space, the untapped market, the market that has not really been outsourced in this area. For me, I feel we're in the right space to be, because Adonis Capital is in Africa right now.
Good. You've talked about entrepreneurs. What would you say are the main challenges facing to raise investment in Africa? And how can they actually overcome these challenges?
First of all, don't raise capital. Don't raise for capital. I know if I when I tell this to startups, they won't want to hear my voice. But don't raise capital. Start your business. Sell your products. Sell your service. Tell your people about your service. Let people rally behind you. Because yes, you're going to ask for money, but the moment you focus on raising capital, you'll not see the need that your business needs. You'll not be able to tap into the space that you need. Because I have seen this in startups. You're raising money, you've raised 200 million, and actually the capital that is raised by startups, rarely is it used for that startup to thrive. Because I see startups using them to buy. All of a sudden they're buying real estate. They're securing this. I'm like, did you raise money for that? So right now, go stop waiting for guys to put money in it. Go tell people about your business. Let people see the need you're solving. Let someone see, okay, I am building this. Like you actually, what you need is change your perspective. Can I serve people? People just need to send money. M-Pesa did that. Did the M-Pesa need permission on how to start sending money? It was solving a problem. If your problem is big enough, the problem that you're solving is big enough, people rally behind it. It's the same story that you're seeing with Tusenti. We've had so many venture capitalists approaching us, and you're telling them, right now, selling Tusenti to you, equity, will be short selling ourselves. We want Tusenti to grow organically. And the stories is marvelous. Merchants are talking great about us. They are marketing us because we solve a problem that they see. When I talk to individuals about Tusenti, they're like, why have you guys been all along? Because we're solving a need. And when you're solving a need, people will come and buy that need. It's simple as that.
I believe that's then how these organizations can actually solve challenges, right? By solving a real need.
Yeah, if you solve a need, you literally solve a need. Tell me, you think about watchmen. It's a simple thing. You ask yourself, how did a company like Securex go big? It's because they're like, hey, guys need to feel secure when they're sleeping within their estates. So what happened? They replaced Masais, and they're like, we need people that can be trusted. That was it. You solve a need. You look at things, simple things as rates, real estate investment trust. People can't build big properties. So what happened? We came up with a way that we can raise funds and build an estate out of it, and we can either earn through development or have it as an income where we have monthly income as rental in it. You solve a need, and that's it. I mean, there are other challenges that entrepreneurs face. I would say the challenges that matters are partnership challenges, how to get public to trust you, and I feel how to how to solve these challenges is keep going back to your craft. Harness your craft, make your craft well known. Go back to your craft. How is it good? When you look at growing artists, let me use an artist like Calligraph as an example. An hip hop artist in Kenya. When you look at when you first hear his rap, why it as good as today? No, but he kept on going back to his craft, making his craft so well. He had to go back to the studio. So as an entrepreneur, go back to the studio. What are you not doing right? Refine it, do it well, read more books, get it out. Make sure that when you present this product to other people, they feel this is a refined product, that I'm in the presence of greatness, you know.
Wow. Thank you for that. What would you say are the investment sectors currently that people should be looking out to? in regard to investment, in regard to funding, and specifically in Africa right now? And why should they go into that?
First of all, I wouldn't say solve climate crisis. First of all, solve food crisis, because when you look at industrial revolution, we were not industrialized. We are now industrializing. So I would say solve a need that you see in Africa, and there's so many needs. We have we have a rising population, so that means there is a housing market. So if you hear people in real estate, those are avenues to invest in. Startups are amazing. In fact, if you want to invest in businesses that will take you to don't go in. I mean, there is the stock market. If you feel insecure, if you feel there is a need to secure your money, but bet on startups, and bet on startups that are in food, that are in softwares, that are in finance, that are in investments. I we all have something that resonates with us. Go find a startup that resonates with you, that resonates with their philosophy, that resonates with what you feel Africa needs. If you feel like food crisis is the thing, good, go to that. If you feel there are guys that need to, it's logistics, because we have Uber here, we have now Bolt solving the same such problems. If you feel it's borders that are going to change the level of Africa, go try and see safe border in Uganda. It's big. This literally in Africa, there's business for everyone. You just need to take it.
Interesting. Okay, what you've just talked about the startup ecosystem in general, and that's the place you've said people should put investment into. You've also talked about the food security industry, agriculture and the likes. But what other industries are there? Because those are also the most focused on at the moment, including in terms of being the buzz industries at the moment, because it's where you can also get funding quickly. But what other industries exist?
I mean, I will say this. We have cars coming from outside Africa, right? That's another area to go in. Come up with new cars, build your own designs, and build them in Africa. Industries we have not tapped in Africa. We have so much. I mean, I listen to Africans and I'm like, Africa has so much to offer. We have the industries. Nobody has. When you look, for example, let me use this. Let's just go even to the liquor business, where wine and alcohol industry. How many of these companies are outside, and how many of these are in Africa? There's so much area. Like when you look at agriculture, it's the industry is huge. Like if I start to mention each and every one of them, I could tell you there's clean tech, solar business. Tell me about water supply. Tell me about the market cap is huge. We have e-commerce. Our e-commerce is not yet tapped because Juma is still not successful as it's supposed to be.
Isn't that a sign of trouble? An industry we shouldn't invest in?
Why not? Tell me why not? Logistics is an area. I will tell Africans, go find a business that is basically from outside market, and make sure that you tap into that specific business. You find a business that has been invested by Europeans. Invest in that business. Sell it to your Africans. The industries are so huge. The magnitude of it. You look at a country like Congo. Congo has so many minerals, and we've not even tapped into a bit of it. Not even 1%. You look at Uganda. Uganda has. It's one of the. Literally, the land fertility in Uganda is enough to feed the population of Nigeria, and this is within the news. This is not me saying. This is from World Health, World Food Programs telling you where the kind of areas that need to be tapped in.
Mm-hmm.
There's when you sit down with bankers. I once played off with with the principal officer from National Bank, and he told me about the business of sunflower oil. And he told me the sunflower oil is such a big business, and no one is tapping into it. And when they went in, the ROI that he got for his investors were as big as 60, 80%. And within 2 years, they were able to recoup their businesses. You're telling me we are importing alcohol, things like we can make in Kenya, the sugar industry. Those are areas that are untapped. Food industry. What are we importing? We're importing. You're telling me flowers. Why are we importing tulips? Create that in Africa. There's so much area.
Thank you very much. What role, because also some of the industries you've talked about are really highly regulated by the government, what role can government policies play in creating an environment that is conducive to investment and entrepreneurs in Kenya and Africa?
First of all, I will say this. Kenyan regulatory authority, in terms of the startup space, is not so much regulated. We are very lucky. I talked to Egyptians. They were like, for us to even put a product, it has to go through regulation. So you've not even earned money out of it. You've not even thought, will this make money or not? So you can imagine what Egyptians are going through. But nevertheless, I think in terms of policies, we need to have frameworks that are conducive. I think I will say this, and if the government if someone in the government is here, fire guys in CMA, Capital Markets Authority, because those people are not doing it. Tell me, when was the last Nairobi Stock Exchange market? When was the last time a company was listed? Literally, the Nairobi Stock Exchange market, an institution that was supposed to raise capital. What's happening? Our capital market is so underdeveloped. Literally, in terms of financing, banks finance 95% of businesses in Kenya. And you ask yourself, what is the capital markets doing? The Nairobi Stock Exchange, the CEOs, what are they doing? Me, if I was the president, those guys won't be working. We'll have new people. Because stock exchange are supposed to enable people, enable businesses. Startups are supposed to be raising their money within the stock exchange. 200 million, 1 billion, go raise them in the stock exchange. We need to, I think the policies that are there is that we need to not just create policies. In fact, because our policies are not bad, but the thing, we can't do copy and paste and put them in Africa. When you look at rate as an example, for you to own a rate, a development rate in Kenya, you must have 6 million. Now, let me ask you, Wahiga, from where you come from, are you going to put 6 million in a development rate, or you're going to buy a quarter somewhere and then put up a small structure
and start building
and then sell it and then convert it? You're actually going to use less. Tell me how, and you look at the concept of rates, how it was supposed to come up. It's a real estate investment trust. What is a trust? It's guys coming together with different skill set, with different financial capabilities, and we putting our properties. And what's happening? 6 million. Oh, wait, how am I going to even put 6 million in a rate? Tell me how. We have absurd policies, and the thing is, we have lazy policy makers. The guys we have, what they are literally doing is, so Britain has introduced this. I think it can work. Let's copy and paste. That's all we're doing. If I was asked, if the president was listening to this, is fire these people, bring people that see how Africa is able to grow. Because we need people we need policy makers that see how can this, yes, this thing has worked in Europe, but how can this thing that has worked in Europe work in Africa? How can it make it African? You see, Safari M-Pesa worked specifically in Kenya, and Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, they came in, was it in 2015, to come and study the ecosystem of M-Pesa and how M-Pesa has been successful. How is it that a telecommunication is giving banks sleepless nights? We need to, and right now, imagine this. The regulator that is the CBK, after seeing M-Pesa success, you know what he did? it put crazy figures for regulation to happen. For you to have a digital wallet, you need around 100,000 USD to be licensed, and you're not even sure if this business is going to work. I think we need to even have frameworks that are working for us as Africans, not okay, a framework might have worked for Europe, but let it work for Africa. That's what we need working for us here.
Hello, Felix. Hello, Felix. Can you hear me? Hello, Felix.
I think you're...
Well, okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I can hear you now. Actually, loud and clear, and I hear your recommendations are very, to say the least, harsh, but still acceptable.
They're not harsh.
It's also
trust to me, they're not.
It's also
believe you me. Look at this. Let me give you a case scenario.
It's an honest opinion, so I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with them. I'm just saying that's very interesting to hear it from you. But moving on, how can African startups actually and entrepreneurs then, even seeing how the regulation is going, how can African startups and entrepreneurs build strong relationships with investors, both locally and internationally?
I think I understand. You see, when you look at our regulations, the failure of our regulations is what is making us find outsource funding in outside market. When you go to NASDAQ or even New York Stock Exchange market, every day there are over 1,000 companies looking to be listed. Those companies, some of them are in pharmaceutical areas. They're testing drugs, and someone just believed in them, and the moment it hits, that's it. We need to have this in Africa. I mean, what Africans can do right now is our way of doing business has always been me to you, Wahiga. It's me, you telling me you're selling this. Okay, how can it help me? And just doing that. It's us to sit down and agree that let's abolish the two formal sectors that have been put in place for us to do business. Because how we used to this, when I look at where I live, there's a gate already, it's an estate. So that already tells you that's business, is that the only way I'm going to do business. So we need to get to each with the neighbors. Let's put down these walls. Let's do business. Let's interact. Let's bring our Africanism, how we used to do, how we interact. And at the same time, I always say this: great need for partnership outside, because if some of us may not have the capital to finance you, but if you are able to get financing from outside, then by all means, create relationship. I will always say this: do business as Kenyans, because we Kenyans now do good business, especially when we consider in terms of funding. The reason why we're getting even more funding as opposed to the African countries, because we have that ability to be trusted, And I think I will tell startups, keep doing that.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. And how you've insisted on how we should do business. Also in regard to Africa, Continental Free Trade Area, what are your thoughts around that? In regard also to how we can do business and invest in each other?
I love what our president has been doing. If you've seen what our president has been doing, he has been removing this thing called a visa application for a Kenyan to go to another country, visa application for this to do and all that. We don't need these borders, literally. And Kenya is at the forefront of doing this. I think we have a very diplomatic president in terms of that, in terms of reducing those barriers. Yesterday, Moses Kuria, our Honorable Moses Kuria, a cabinet secretary and trade and finance and the trade, and he has been he talked about partnership between the Kenyan government and the Egyptian government, that visa application has been abolished. All you need to do is your passport. Other African countries need to put this in place. We need to have that, because the moment we abolish all those forms of trade, that means I can go to, you see that 10,000 I will have used for visa, I could go to in Egypt and just and see the different businesses that could be open in Egypt, and that's it. Africans need to open their countries to the rest of the world. There's something I remember. There's a movie called The Black Panther, and the writers talk about, or rather, the actors talk about opening Wakanda to the rest of the world. We need to allow, Tanzania needs to allow to open itself to the rest of Africa, and so is Uganda. Reduce these barriers. We don't need them. Other people need them. We don't need them. We used to borrow each other salt. The way we borrow salt from your neighbor, that's what we need. Because when I'm able to get salt out of you, that is the best way that we can be able to grow businesses. Because let me tell you, as we speak, to Senti has, how many African countries do we have? 15 African countries that already are trying to outsource us. But interesting enough is we have 85 international countries outside Africa that would want us to go into their countries and have our products within those countries. So I'm asking myself, if this thing we build it with this product, even for Africans, why Africans not taking it? Because we need them to take it.
Good. Wow. and I believe that's also what you mean by African investors supporting and nurturing local startups and entrepreneurs. In lieu of all this, where does, and in your opinion, do the SDGs apply? How relevant, how known are they to Africans and Kenyan Africans in general? What is the place of the SDGs in all this scenario?
I have a question. Who formed the SDGs?
I believe that wouldn't be a question to me because I'm the interviewer.
That's a very interesting question. See, the thing is, I did my research. When SDGs were done, even when they were being introduced to Kenyans, they never went even to the common man in Africa. So I don't talk of SDGs. If someone asks me, yes, SDGs, yeah, for corporate and a good view and to be seen as we're promoting international things, fine. SDGs are good, but honestly, let me ask you: when you're starting a business, do you form a business for Europeans, or you form a business for the people around you? Because the SDGs, when they were created, when you look at even the formalization of the SDGs, Africans were not really consulted on work for them. Because if you ask me, between climate crisis and food crisis, between I look at the different SDGs and I'm like, what matters to me is, can we reduce the income inequality, poverty, these barriers and so on. This matters to us. But at the same time, I feel like each African country has different problems it's facing, and each African country will have to benefit in a different capacity. And for me, right now, I feel we need to come up with goals that work for us. Okay, I'll align them with SDGs. But if you're going to start a business that allow for people that aligns the SDGs, you might not get it, because yes, it's going to solve a certain SDG goal. But the question is, when you're starting it, is your target the SDG or is your target the African? That's my biggest question. Because we have to ask ourselves, is this solving our problems? Because that's the biggest question. I have sat down with guys who form those policies and SDGs. I can tell you, those guys didn't go to Kisumu or Pokot or Mombasa or Moyale to understand how SDG will work. And I can tell you this for fact. They didn't go to the interior of Congo to understand what do Congolese need for them to thrive with these SDGs. Because, I mean, these are just goals to make UN feel like they're doing something good. in Africa. But true story, give me one impact they've made in Africa. Give me one. Even the startups that are being funded and have not seen successful. M-Pesa grew not out of SDG. It grew because it was solving a problem. So as an entrepreneur, I will tell you this: solve the problems of your people.
Okay, that's very interesting. I'll definitely I definitely wish I brought in an SDG expert or policy maker to actually have this discussion with you. Maybe when we do that, I will call you back again.
Agreed.
But
I
even as
would
we
love
continue and we are about to end our session, what are the latest trends and innovations in the African fintech, because that's really the industry and space you are in, and investment sector? And what do you see as the future of this industry in Kenya and Africa?
First, I think the future of fintech in Africa is Tusenti. Not just Africa, the world is Tusenti. Because I'm telling you, I love the conversation I had with guys from Visa and Mastercard. When you get into a room and all of a sudden the big players are shaken off, that means you're about to tap into a bigger space. But at the same time, I think I will tell African, consider things like REITs, SACCOs, and for guys that are in SACCOs, tell your SACCOs to do better than just investing in the stock market. There are other avenues. Invest in these startups. I will say startups within the startup space. There's so many good businesses. There's Kianda. I've seen Kianda. They're doing an amazing job. Adonis Capital is at the forefront of unveiling investment space. We have a startup called Taste of Hadija's Kitchen. This girl is brilliant. This girl made sure that food, how we prepare food, she revolutionized it. She came up with a paste that you boil your meat, you add the paste, and you don't need to add any form of onions or anything, and the food is ready. So such ideas are brilliant. I think if you ask me specifics, and not so much, but I can tell you within the African space, there's so much. There is so many, literally, the innovations in Africa are so huge that you never know which one is up, which one is about to happen. And I just can't wait to hear the next idea coming out. But high chances is the next idea that will be out, maybe Adonis Capital will have been at the forefront of helping it, emerge to the market.
Thank you. And what are some of the key success stories of entrepreneurs and businesses that have successfully raised capital and grown in the African market? And what can you say we can learn from them? Both successes and failures.
To be very honest, wow.
And I know you've quoted some organizations.
I mean, I know there's Trigger Foods, there's Copia. Copia is really doing well in terms of logistics and
Last mile.
Yes, those ones. I mean, there is so much happening, but still, see, the thing is, even the business I'm mentioning about, when you look at the directors, the board, they're not Africans. This is annoying.
So then, please tell me the African ones, apart from
This is the part where you ask yourself,
apart from Adonis Capital.
Tusenti is growing organically, and it's because I'm in there. I tell startups, when you're about to go into the world, make me help you. Let's get to a partnership where I'm able to help you on how to even grow your business, because getting literally, I could mentioning one startup that doesn't have a European inside is very hard, because if you look at something like MGAS, MGAS is there are Norwegians in it. I'm like, you ask yourself, so what? It's very hard to single out specifically which ones, because I could go to a startup and I'll be like, Let's go to due diligence. Let's look at its investors, and I'll find there's always a a Western face inside it. It's very rare, and this is why I'm trying to call Africans to be able to see their businesses, build your own ventures. If you go look at a company like Safaricom, the majority shareholders are who apart from the government? Vodacom, Vodafone. There is Vanguard Fund in it. There is all these companies are from where? From outside. Go to you Equity as a bank. You'll notice that even the majority shareholders are not even Africans anymore.
But you can say it started with Africans, right?
It said yes, it started with Africans, but
so to
the question.
So to you, is there no success story of African-run companies at the moment, or Kenyan-run companies, to the best of your knowledge?
There are so many. I think when you look at the organization that have made it to the world and the organization that are being benchmarked in the world, when you look at a lot of banking in Europe, they are benchmarking their businesses based on how Equity became a success. Equity innovated that the banking industry in Africa. It's the largest bank in Africa in terms of customer base, and if you look at a business like Naivas as a business, when they started, it's a big business that has been built by Africans. But you see, there are also other failure stories that like, I could mention Nakumat, But at the same time, business like Bidco, they're owned by Africans, When you look at MDP, there are significant African businesses that are out there, and as you speak. But what I'm trying to put is, at the moment, the businesses that are shaping the growth space in Africa, there are very few that are Africans.
What can we learn from them?
What can we learn from these businesses?
And also the insights that you provided, considering that these organizations are not African run.
I think there's so much to one, your craft. I will always say this: you want to be the best parent. Sit down and mold your child. As as a founder, your best space. I will even say this: delegate the aspect of sourcing for funding, but when it comes to your business, sit back, go back, and make sure this business is able to grow. Yeah, I would say go back to your business, make sure that your business is able to thrive. Make sure that your business is seen as the unicorn, the business that can be benchmarked with. There are very few success stories. But at the same time, there can never be many success stories. The success stories that matter is yours. So you go back and sit down. There's only one person who can build your business, is you, and you know what your business needs. I can tell you, I can give you advice, but much of it is how well are you able to sit down and make your business thrive in your own space.
Wow. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This brings us to the end of our conversation this evening. Thank you so much, Felix Ochuoga. Would you have a last word for our audience today, even as we close up on this? Today, we were talking about the finance and investment ecosystem in Africa.
I think my takeout is this: is that wealth is not status. Africans' wealth is not status. Wealth is so much more. And I always love to tell people this: less ego, more wealth. Reduce on trying to look like a big name out there. Deep. When you look at your business and you look at your investment, sit down, look at before putting your money in that bank, ask yourself, how can you be able to impact people differently? How can your money be able to build the next African big business out there? Do that, and I'm certain that you are able to grow so much more.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Felix.
Senti.
And thank you for just joining us this evening. It's been an interesting conversation on what your opinion about finance and investment in Africa, the ecosystem as a whole. So thank you so much for being part of this. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to an end of our conversation today. We were honored by Mr. Felix Ochuoga, the CEO and founder of Adonis Capital and COO and Executive Director of Tusenti. This is Let's Create Africa, where we focus about business innovation, governance, and the SDGs. Yes, sir.
Just there's someone who was asked for businesses that are not in tech. Any tips on raising capital? Might first of all, I wouldn't say raise funds, but there are so many avenues for you to do business. First, the best way to raise it is through your people around you. At the same time, just present to us. I will say this, I will leave my contact and we have a conversation even how to help you to grow, because I can't answer all of this right now, but I think we can see how to even grow bigger and expand and share ideas out here. So I think I'll leave my contacts within this so that you're able to reach out.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that comment, Felix, and thank you for just addressing that. Thank you, Maureen Mbogwa, for joining us, actually, even as we end, and thank you for asking your question. This brings us to the end of this, and I had already spoken my part, and what I would like to say, thank you to our partner, Startinev, which is an ecosystem enabler, innovation ecosystem enabler, KYR Africa, which is a civic and citizen education platform. There is Soko, an e-commerce platform ensuring last mile delivery. And last but not least will be the future of work, creating job opportunities and rediscovering job opportunities for young people. Thank you for that, Maureen. And again, this brings us to the end. My name is Wahiga K. Muturi, and thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening on this conversation on the finance and investment ecosystem in Kenya and Africa. My name is Wahiga K. Muturi, and I was hosting Felix Ochuoga. And this, you can find it actually online on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, if you want to re-listen to this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you for being there with us and for us. This year has been great. It is not the same without you. Again, my name is Wahiga K. Muturi, and I bid you all a good night, good evening, sorry, and God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you.